Have you ever thought about how one single painful moment from your childhood could actually end up shaping your entire life's purpose? Well, we're going to dive into the incredible story of Seethamma, an educator whose journey just reveals the amazing power of finding your calling, especially when you're navigating life's biggest storms. Right here, this one quote, it's the key to her entire philosophy. It really sets the stage for a belief system that wasn't born from some textbook, but from real lived experience. And that distinction is just so powerful, understanding versus pity. And where that idea came from, well, that's where our story really begins. You know, to really understand the teacher, you have to meet the child first. So we're going to go back to her early years, to uncover where this mission, this thing that would define her whole career, actually started. I mean, can you imagine packing up your entire life every 3 years? A new city, a new school, a whole new set of faces. This constant change really shapes Seethamma. She actually started out as an extrovert, but that endless cycle of goodbyes kind of turned her inward, and she learned to be perfectly happy just in her own company. And this really shows you the two sides of that coin, doesn't it? On one hand, what an adventure, getting to see all these new parts of the country. But on the other, those deep, lasting friendships that so many of us rely on when we're young, they were always just out of reach. It was a life of quick hellos and even quicker goodbyes. And then, the moment came that changed everything. It was a school activity, and students were told to pick a friend. Seethamma just waited, but her name was never called. Just imagine the sting of that silence, that feeling of being totally invisible. That's a feeling that can stick with you for a long, long time. And here's the crucial part. Instead of letting that pain crush her, she turned it into fuel. Right then and there, she made a promise to her future self. And this wasn't just some passing thought. It became the absolute foundation of her entire professional life. So let's see how this promise started to take shape as she stepped into adulthood. You'll see, her path wasn't exactly a straight line, but every single turn was leading her right where she needed to go. After graduation, she took a teaching job, really just to earn a little money for herself. But the second she stepped into that classroom, something just clicked. Instantly, she knew this was it. This was the profession for her. It just felt like coming home. So her journey kind of followed the rhythm of many military spouses. She started her Bachelor of Education, married another officer, and then she took a 7-year break to focus on her 2 daughters. But that call to the classroom, it was always there in the back of her mind. And she eventually returned, starting out with the youngest learners in pre-primary. But her story was about to take a really dramatic turn. She had no idea yet, but a storm was gathering on the horizon. And her passion for teaching, it was about to become more than just a job. It was about to become her anchor. Okay, this is one of those moments that feels like it's straight out of a movie. Seriously, she just went to a school in Bangalore to get her daughters admitted. She wasn't even looking for a job, but they asked her to apply, interviewed her right then and there, and offered her a position. Looking back now, she sees it as some kind of guiding hand, getting her ready for what was coming next. So life was moving forward. She was a mother, a wife, a teacher. Everything was falling into place. And then, in 2008, the unimaginable happened. Her husband passed away. And get this, she was just 34 years old, a widow with 2 young daughters to raise all by herself. In an instant, the world as she knew it had completely fallen apart. In that absolute, overwhelming darkness, she found 3 pillars that held her up. Her faith, that gave her hope. Her daughters, they gave her a reason to get up in the morning. And her school gave her sanity. The structure, the purpose, and just being with her students became the lifeline that pulled her forward, one day at a time. Okay, so let's look at how that childhood promise and this profound life experience actually translated into the classroom. This is where we see the real-world impact of her empathetic approach to teaching, and it is powerful. Early on, in one particularly tough job, the pressure just became too much. She actually broke down in front of her class and confessed, "Never become teachers." It was this moment of just complete vulnerability, a teacher showing them that she was human too. So how did the students respond? Not with judgment, but with pure empathy. They promised to behave better, and on Teacher's Day, they gave her a simple handmade card. That small gesture of care from her students, it reminded her why she was there in the first place. It changed her whole perspective. She tells this other amazing story of a young child who came to her just bawling. Instead of immediately asking, "What's wrong?" she just let the child finish. No interruptions. By the time the tears stopped, the problem didn't seem so big anymore. Just being fully heard, that's all it took. That's empathy in action, right there. And the impact of these small acts lasts for years, literally. She made a habit of writing these little personal notes of encouragement to her students before their big exams. And just recently, a former student sent her a photo of that exact note, telling her it still motivates them, all these years later. And it's not just emotional support either. Her practical lessons stick too. An alumnus actually came back to tell her that the specific study techniques she taught didn't just help him pass a class. They helped him clear his defense exams and continue to get promotions in his career. How amazing is that? So, after all these decades of experience, through these incredible highs and just devastating lows, what has she learned? Let's try to distill her entire journey into a few core principles.
Here it is, the code she lives by. 4 key principles we can all learn from. First, trust is everything. Once it's broken, it's almost impossible to fully repair. Second, humility is a strength. Admitting when you're wrong actually builds respect. Third, authenticity creates connection. Just being human is so powerful. And finally, share the credit. Success is a partnership, not a solo victory.
And man, this really just says it all. For Seethamma, the classroom wasn't just a place of work. It was the place where she fulfilled that childhood promise, where she found healing from unbelievable grief, and where she built life-changing partnerships. It truly was her anchor. You know, Seethamma's story shows us how our purpose can be forged in pain, and how a calling can guide us through the absolute darkest of times. And that kind of leaves us with a question to think about. In your own life, through your own storms, what calling has been your anchor?